As the night drew to a close and the sun began to set, slowly behind the western mountains, visible from the high battlements above the castle gate, 2 guards stood above the decadent stone structure and observed the city below. They watched in disciplined silence as natural light turned to torchlight, and the sounds of work turned to the sounds of the night.
Have you ever been there before?
Where?
Where I'm pointing.
I can't see where you're pointing from over here.
Then come over here and look.
I have to stay in this spot and stay vigilant. Watch the commander's orders. We're not even supposed to be talking.
Okay, fine. Then I'll describe it to you.
Describe it well.
You see the bell tower?
Which one?
The one with the 4 windows and the brass exterior.
Yes, I see it.
Now go 4 buildings left of there.
1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, including or not including the bell tower?
Not including. I said 4 buildings, not a bell tower.
A bell tower is a building.
A bell tower is a bell tower.
Fine, let me recount it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The one with the flat roof and the white and blue bricks?
Yes, that one.
Of course I know that one. Blue square.
Yes, the blue square.
You could have let off with the fact that it's blue square instead of making me do, basic math, right?
I didn't know if you knew the name of the joint or not.
Name one person in this castle who doesn't know blue square.
I'd say Roz has never been before.
Wrong.
How do you know Roz knows blue square?
I saw her there one time.
With who?
Don't know, but I saw her there.
What was she drinking?
A drink of sorts.
No shit, she was drinking a drink. What kind of drink, you brick?
I don't know, man, but it was in a brass cup, not one of the wooden ones. One of those fancy drinks they had there.
Where does Roz have brass cup money? Do you know how much those cost?
I don't know, man. Roz's business is her own.
And you're sure it was Roz?
I'd put money down on it.
How much money are we talking about?
I don't know, maybe 15?
You're on.
Fine. Now sew your mouth shut and watch the bloody gate.
Aye, Watch Commander.
Fuck off. Just telling you to do your job.
Aye, Watch Commander. Should I start saluting you now? If you're giving me orders, it just feels right.
Enough. Just watch the road.
My heart and home are yours, Commander. Whatever you request of me shall be considered an order from King Nicholas himself.
Gentlemen!
With a start, the 2 guards flicked their eyes towards the city beneath. Below them, a lone rider sat atop a black warhorse. Even from high up in the battlements, the 2 guards could easily make out the striking features of the rider. His face, chiseled as if crafted from marble, tan skin and soot-black hair stood out even during the twilight. His cloak, although as black as his hair, was woven with the finest dyed cotton the farms of Rosedale could offer. Carefully and masterfully carved steel sat atop his breast, and also at his hip in the form of a set of twin copish blades.
Identify yourself and step away from the gate at once.
Step away, or this arrow shall pierce your heart.
Standing atop the northern side of the gate, Den drew his longbow and nocked an arrow.
My apologies. I carry orders from your General Casimir. I was supposed to arrive much earlier in the day. However, I was held up on the outskirts of the city. This place is rather difficult to navigate.
Nobody's permitted to enter the castle after dark.
Bjorn, Den's companion atop the high castle walls, also nocked a steel-tipped arrow.
I'm sure you can make an exception for the orders of your general. I believe that these orders specifically state that, quote, anyone found delaying your arrival shall be held in contempt and hung as a traitor. Does that qualify as a suitable exception?
Bjorn and Den shared a quick glance.
This would be considered a suitable exception. Come, this way, quickly.
Within less than a minute, the cloaked stranger entered through the castle gates. Bjorn wrinkled his nose as the man passed by. Something about this stranger reminded him of the last time he lay eyes on his mother, but he could not quite pinpoint the exact reason.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll be on my way. Please return to your duties and remember, not a word of this.
The 2 guards nodded and returned to their post.
You smell that?
I smelled something.
Smelled like a crypt.
Like where you'd put bodies?
Cremated bodies.
Bjorn suddenly remembered. The smell of ash and burning flesh. The last day he had seen his mother was in the Great Fire. He hadn't recognized her face, but he had recognized her pendant, the same pendant he wore to this day.
He smelled like a burnt body.
Yeah, I guess that could make sense.
Not long after sunrise, the city was suddenly awoken. The lookouts had been posted atop the bell towers for days now and had remained vigilant in their watch. The veterans, who had either aged out of their days of service or had been injured beyond the ability to fight once more, held the greatest honor within the ranks of the Rosedale military. They became the bell ringers. The bells would toll upon the return of the expeditionary legions. A returned legion signaled either victory or peace, both reasons for celebration. Filippa Darda, a former cavalier in the service of King Nicholas, was praised with accolades upon her retirement at the age of 45. In the nearly 20 years that had since passed, she rose through the ranks of the bell ringers and once again, to her delight, struck the steel hammer against the polished bronze of the first bell. Moments later, the bells began to ring throughout the city. They're coming home! By the time the army had traveled the last miles of the stretch of roads returning to the castle, the streets were lined with husbands, wives, children, and friends of the returning soldiers. The streets were laden with rose petals to the point where the cobblestone beneath could no longer be seen.
We are finally home.
General Casimir, the longest-serving general in the Rosedale army in over 2 centuries, entered the gate atop his white horse. Both he and his horse were clad in celebratory bronze and cloaked with a white and red checkered cloth that billowed behind him. Stopping before the gates, Casimir recited the words, calling them to the first bell ringer.
Will you open your gates to us, ye great and ancient city? For we have toiled long in her name and desire to be home once again.
Our hearts and hearths are yours. Shela Ura Hela. Filippa once again struck the bells, and the army continued forward, passing through the streets, accepting all forms of gifts from the citizens within. Flowers were thrown, drinks were poured, and food was eaten by the pound. At the end of the winding roads waited the royal entourage and the castle guard, a small army unto itself.
I almost thought that old goat would never come home.
I was thinking the same thing. What has it been? 2 years now?
2 years, yes.
From this distance, it looks as though the expedition was once again peaceful.
I'll take peace over victory any day.
I'll happily second that.
King Nicholas remained silent after this comment. Ormara glanced in his direction to see that his face had turned from that of a joyous king to that of a cold stone tossed about by the waves.
Look, here they come, around to Victory's Bend.
Behind the royal family, their guard, and a band of other noble spectators, a man stood atop a podium, the royal conductor. For the past several minutes he had been standing, his hands held before him, balled into a light fist. Once he saw the gleam of bronze, his hands opened and a wall of sound overtook the large square. Brass instruments, string instruments, woodwind instruments, and more began to play the victorious tone as Casimir and the army waved toward the incoming crowd.
Hail the glorious returned.
And hail to the glorious, who never shall.
Casimir dismounted his horse, bowed deeply, and then embraced the king.
How are you, my friend?
I am well.
Casimir quickly focused his eyes on Adrien and Ariadne.
Welcome back, you two. I won't lie, something about having you two back here, it really makes the world seem right again.
Casimir hugged both the kids.
Welcome back, Cass. It's great to have you back.
Thank you, Adrien. And I could say the same for you. Have you grown some? Last I saw, you were only up to my elbow. Now you're almost at my shoulder. Either you're growing or... or I'm shrinking.
Have you ever considered the possibility of both?
Nope. Can't say that I have, Ariadne. Welcome back. Are you sure this parade isn't for you? You deserve it more than me.
Believe me, Father already threw one party for Adrien and I. We don't want any more.
Ah, of course he did. The old bastard couldn't help himself, I'm sure. Now, tell me, Adrien, have you started your apprenticeship with that new blacksmith?
Nope. Father hasn't given his seal of approval for me to start it. I really want to, though. He just keeps having me recite the history of the Gen Civil War.
Oh, that old thing? Nothing more than a bunch of savages going feral on each other. Worry not, young prince. I'll talk to him about letting you start that apprenticeship. Speaking of the old bastard...
Casimir said, turning his attention back over to the king.
We have much to talk about.
Of course we do, Casimir.
Casimir quickly grabbed the king and spoke into his ear so that no others could hear his words.
No. I mean, we really need to talk. But not here. Too many people. I carry dangerous news, fit only for the king.
Indeed, my friend. Then we shall gather the council at once.
The king and the general embraced once again. The king held his hand high for silence.
My countrymen, may the celebrations begin in earnest, for the Legion has returned.
Cheers erupted from the crowd and spread quickly through the city. Once again, a night of celebration was upon the city of Rosedale.
I see metal. Reflective. I see...
Can you identify the metal?
No, I don't think so.
That's alright. What else do you see?
I see red. A red cape. Wait, I also see... white.
Can you see any more?
No, I don't.
That's alright, young one. Please rest. You have done very well.
Nova sat across from the child in a wooden chair. The child sat upon a pillow, eyes closed and his brow furrowed. The night sky is almost blue from the full moon. The day had been peaceful in the tower on the eastern side of the Great Break, but the child's mind had been busy for hours now.
You have seen much today. Has your sight become any clearer?
Somewhat. I mostly see color, but sometimes a shape will form.
Very good, young one.
The child opened his eyes. Nova looked into the child's misty gray pupils, but knew that the young boy could not see the look of concern and bewilderment on her face.
Have you eaten?
I have.
Have you bathed?
Yes.
Very good. The hour's late. Off to bed with you.
Yes, sir.
You've done well today. I will make a warm bath for you tomorrow.
Is it possible to sleep with your eyes open?
I don't know. Why do you ask?
Every time I close my eyes, I can see the colors. But when my eyes are open, I see nothing.
Do you remember the breathing we practiced?
I think so.
Try that. It should clear your mind so you can sleep.
I will try.
Call me if you need anything.
The young boy nodded. He fumbled his hand around for a few moments, attempting to locate the walking stick he made a habit of carrying. He stood and walked towards the door. Suddenly, he stopped.
I saw something I didn't like. Does that make me bad?
Not at all. What did you see?
I saw fire. It made my eyes feel hot and it burned.
That's okay, my boy. Remember, what you see cannot hurt you. You're always safe here.
Okay.
Good night, little one.
Good night.
Once the child had closed the door behind himself, Nova clutched her chest and buckled over. Tears fell from her eyes and she wept as quietly as she could. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Nova relaxed. No matter what, she would do her best for this boy. This strange child with a power that nobody could understand.